The daily meal production record for breakfast is the required record of the school breakfast program. Information must be recorded each day for all grade groups. The daily meal production record must be kept in the kitchen area for quick and easy reference while preparing and serving food. Click on the worksheet tabs at the bottom to find additional pages for condiments, a la carte items, leftovers, instructions, and a completed sample. Now, let's get started by reviewing each section of the document. There are two major sections, planning and production, which allows the form to be a management tool, a determination of nutritional adequacy, an assessment of food safety practices, and your daily record to support your claims for reimbursable meals. All forms other than the DPI prototype must be approved in writing by the state agency prior to use. Sections and columns 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 may be prepared or partially completed by the central office menu planner prior to distribution to managers. Doing so may increase accuracy and ensure that all required meal components, including the vegetable subgroups, are included. Please note, the manager may need to complete the serving line information in Section 1 if the information is not known by the menu planner. In this example, the data can be entered at 3 different time periods: the basic menu information supplied by the central office, the planning section information provided by the manager in advance of the meal, and the Today's Production Service columns, completed the day the meal is prepared and served. All items required as part of your HACCP plan must be completed daily. Now, let's start with Section 1 and go through the entire breakfast production record step by step. In the menu section, enter all items offered for the day's reimbursable menu. This includes food item choices such as additions, leftovers, substitutions, etc. A second page has been added for schools that have extensive menus and/or a la carte items that are time and temperature controlled for safety, or TCS, foods, and not available as part of the reimbursable meal. An additional production record could also be used. The USDA meal pattern requires that all components are offered on all serving lines dispensing reimbursable meals. Therefore, it is necessary for schools to document the food items available on each separate serving line when different. Use the column to the left of the menu section to write in the serving line for each menu item that is offered differently for each line. If all multiple serving lines contain exactly the same food items, or if the school has only one line, this information is not required. Next, we will learn how to record the temperatures of each menu item. For the cook target temperatures, record the safe cooking or preparation temperature for each temperature controlled for safety, or TCS, menu item. You may refer to the HACCP Section 2-5 for additional information about safe food handling procedures and temperatures. Also, record the safe holding temperature for each TCS menu item. These safe target temperatures should be included in your standardized recipes. For hot or cold menu items that are TCS foods, temperatures are only recorded for the first pan or batch of each menu item. The temperature of all subsequent pans of cooked foods will be checked for doneness. For cold TCS foods, the temperature will be checked before the item is removed from the refrigerator. Temperatures of these additional pans are not recorded on the production record. Remember to be sure to use a properly calibrated thermometer. Record the time that the first pan of TCS food was removed from the oven, or in the case of cold food, when preparation was completed. Check the actual food temperature with a properly calibrated thermometer. If the food does not meet the cook target temperature, continue cooking until it does. Do not record this temperature because the corrective action is to continue to cook the item to the proper temperature before service. If a cold food is not at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, it can be safely cooled down if one knows that it has not been in the temperature danger zone for more than 4 hours. Chill the food to this temperature within 2 hours in order to serve it safely. Food should never be placed in holding or on the serving line until it is at a safe temperature for consumption. In summary, the temperatures recorded in this column should be the end cooking temperatures for menu items that have reached the cook target temperature or the temperature of cold foods when preparation is completed. Measure the actual temperature of the food when it is removed from the cold holding cooler or hot holding cabinet and before it is placed on the serving line. If a cold food is not at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, it can be safely cooled down if one knows that it has not been in the temperature danger zone for more than 4 hours. If not known, then throw it out. Record the amount of food thrown out in column 13, Directions, Comments, Corrective Actions Taken. Only record the temperature of the first pan of cold food placed on the serving line. Measure the temperature of each subsequent pan. All pans of cold TCS food should always be at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder before placement on the serving line. Measure the temperature of hot foods when removed from hot holding and before placing on the steam table or serving line. If the food is not at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or hotter, you must reheat to 165 degrees Fahrenheit before placing on the serving line. Record this in column 13, Directions, Comments, Corrective Actions Taken. If time as a public health control or TPHC procedures are being implemented as a food safety control, follow the written procedure for documenting time when removed from holding and discard times. Foods subject to TPHC must be discarded by the end of the time specified in the written TPHC procedure. File copies of all approved TPHC procedures in the HACCP plan in Section 1-1, Menus and Recipes. Remember that food temperatures of all TCS foods, including a la carte items, must be tracked at 3 times. 1. Preparing cold foods or cooking. 2. Holding. And 3. Leftover temperatures. The only exception is for foods held according to approved TPHC procedures. Leftover temperatures are not required for these foods. However, the TPHC procedures and record keeping must be followed exactly as written. Failure to follow exactly will result in an environmental health violation. In Section 2, enter name of the school and date of meal service. The signature indicates that the manager or person in charge has fully reviewed the meal planning, production, and service, and is satisfied with the accuracy of the information. The document should be signed at the end of the day of meal service when all information is complete and verified. In Section 3A, record the total number of pre-K meals planned. In Section 3B, record the total number of reimbursable student meals, not including pre-K meals, planned to offer at the time you complete column 11 and 12 prior to ordering food. You should use previous production record information for similar menus to determine the estimated number of reimbursable meals and the potential amount of each menu item to offer. Plan and offer enough foods so that students may have adequate quantities to select reimbursable meals, but not amounts that are inconsistent with past production records that result in excessive leftovers. If students participate in Offer versus Serve, or OVS, it is not reasonable to plan a serving of every menu item, including milk, for each student. Remember to refer to past production record columns 14, 15, and 16 for accurate planning and forecasting. For schools serving more than one menu planning grade group at each school, for example, grades K through 5 and grades 6 through 8, or grades 6 through 8 and grades 9 through 12, you must plan the menu items for each grade group separately. Please note the pre-K column A may be renamed if you need to use it to record K through 5, and then use column B to record grades 6 through 8. Work with the state agency consultants to achieve accurate production record recording in these special situations. You may also use the section above the planned meals to record important notes about the day's meal service. In Section 4, After meal service, record the total number of reimbursable student meals served by grade levels using same menu planning grade group, for example, grades K through 5, grades 6 through 8, grades 9 through 12, etc. Also include the number of pre-K meals, eligible child nutrition adult meals, catered or transported meals, and other adult-priced meals, noting the total meals served. Check if implementing the offer versus serve or OVS provision, and indicate grade levels implementing OVS. If your school serves more than one grade group, on the same production record, record a separate number served from each grade group. Verify that drinking water is available to all students without restriction. In Section 5, you should observe personnel actions because these 5 items support your HACCP plan and must be monitored daily. Each should be checked if in place. Note any corrective action taken if you were unable to check that all were carried out as required. Healthy? Are all employees healthy? If an individual is sick, he or she should not be handling exposed food, single-use articles, cleaned and sanitized dishware and equipment, and clean linens. Refer to the HACCP Plan Section 2-4, Prerequisite Programs, Appendix A, for more information about employee health and when to exclude or restrict employees from food handling duties. Clean appearance. Are employees properly dressed according to the food safety standards outlined in 2-4, Prerequisite Programs? Washing hands. Are workers properly washing their hands with warm water, soap, and drying? No bare hand contact. Are employees handling ready-to-eat food with no bare hand contact? Employees should not be handling cooked or ready-to-eat foods with bare hands. They should use tongs, utensils, deli tissue, or single-use gloves. Thermometers checked and calibrated if needed. Are all thermometers checked for accuracy daily and calibrated if needed? Calibration is the process of verifying the accuracy of a thermometer. Thermocouples do not require calibration, and so, if using one, make a notation of NA, not applicable. Refer to the HACCP Plan Section 2-5, Safe Food Handling Requirements, or the HACCP training materials on the Child Nutrition website for complete instructions about properly calibrating thermometers. Now, let's look at the menu planning section. In Column 6, record the recipe number of the standardized recipe that must be used for preparing every menu item. Under the Food Items section in Column 7, list all the offered menu items that were included in Section 1. These are all the foods to be planned, prepared, and served as part of the reimbursable meal. Refer also to the standardized recipe for more information. Also, if the same food items are offered in different portion sizes for a pre-K menu, use a separate line and list the item again with corresponding portion size and component contribution. Remember to list the various milk choices, condiments, and any other foods the same way that you plan for any other menu item offered as part of the reimbursable meal. Indicate if any of the grains offered are whole wheat or whole grain by using WW or WG in the recipe or food item description. List the flavors and fat levels of milk planned for service in your school. For example, 1% unflavored, skim, fat-free chocolate, 1% lactose-free unflavored, skim, fat-free unflavored, etc. Remember, milk or any other menu item cannot be recycled. Once it leaves the line on a student's tray, it cannot be returned for service to others. The milk or other food might become intentionally or unintentionally contaminated, and so could potentially become a source of illness for others. In Column 8, the portion size is the amount that one would expect to see on a plate or tray. Portion size is not always the same as the meal pattern contribution. For example, the portion size of a breakfast bagel with meat and/or cheese toppings may be 1 each. However, the meal pattern contribution would be 1 1/2 equivalent ounce grain servings and 1 ounce equivalent grain substitute serving. The portion size of a sausage biscuit may be 1 each, and the grain contribution could be 2 ounce equivalent grain servings and 1 other serving. The portion size of a fresh 125-count apple could be 1 each and provide 1 cup fruit component contribution. The portion size of whole wheat French toast sticks may be 3 each and provide 2 1/4 ounce of equivalent grains. Accurate standardized recipes should indicate both the portion size and the meal pattern contribution. Note that in this example, the bananas and peaches left over from breakfast are going to be used as leftover for that day's lunch. In Section 10, enter the number of purchase units required for 100 servings. This information should be based on and calculated from the accurately yield-tested standardized quantity recipe used at the school. The recipe should be yield-tested and written to reflect at least the minimum amount of ingredients required for component crediting from the USDA Food Buying Guide, Child Nutrition Labels, USDA Food Fact Sheets, or signed manufacturer's statements on company letterhead. These are considered approved sources of information. The information in column 10 should be consistent with the accurate standardized recipe yield information. For example, if the yield-tested standardized recipe states that it takes 5 pounds of a creditable ingredient or food item to produce 23 servings, then the units for 100 servings would be 21.74 pounds for that item. This is calculated as 5 pounds divided by 23 servings multiplied by 100 servings, equaling 21.74 pounds. In Section 11, previously menu substitutions made on the day of service and leftover menu items were not included in the servings to offer column 11. However, USDA now requires that the menu analysis is conducted based on the menu items offered on the day of service. Therefore, you must adjust the number of servings offered when the original menu items and amounts planned differ from the menu items and number of servings offered. These adjustments should be made in column 11 before meal service on the day the menu is offered. Remember that the amounts to offer for reimbursable meals must be reasonable when compared to the number of meals planned for the day. Remember, you are using the servings to offer for 2 things in Section 11 of the production record. 1, pre-planned 2 or more weeks out before ordering food, and then 2, possible subsequent adjustments on the day of service to show the number of servings that will be offered to students. Prior to ordering food, enter the number of servings planned to offer for each meal component for pre-K students in 11A, other student reimbursable meals in 11B, and total meals, which include pre-K, student reimbursable plus a la carte and adult meal servings in 11C. Remember to plan the various milk choices and condiments for students and record the same as any other menu item. The milk planning information should be recorded at the time you plan the remainder of the menu items and before ordering food. For schools utilizing more than 1 menu planning grade group at each school, for example, grades pre-K and grades K through 5, or K through 5 and grades 6 to 8, or grades 6 to 8 and grades 9 through 12, you must plan the menu items for each grade group separately. Please note the pre-K column A may be renamed if you need to use it to record planning for K through 5, and then use column B to record planning for grades 6 through 8. Work with the state agency consultants to achieve accurate production record recording in these special situations. Remember that the amounts of food planned to offer for student reimbursable meals must be reasonable when compared with the number of reimbursable meals planned in Section 3. For example, if you are planning 335 reimbursable student meals, you cannot plan more than this number of total entrees or milks. Likewise, you could not plan more than 335 servings of fruits if students are only allowed to take 1 serving. You would plan less than these amounts if students participate in OVS and often decline some menu items. Remember to plan to offer reasonable amounts of menu items to avoid excessive leftovers, using past production record information for accurately forecasting numbers of servings needed. Note, if items that are sold only as a la carte are included in column 7, do not complete the reimbursable servings to offer column. Instead, include information only for total servings to offer, since students would not select these items as part of the reimbursable meal. In other words, enter 0 for student reimbursable servings to offer for a la carte only menu items. Alternately, use page 2 of the production record to list these a la carte only menu items. Menu items substituted must be included on the production record and should be listed in the areas designated at the bottom of the page. Complete the information for all columns, including the servings to offer column. If the production record has items already planned and you will not serve those items, mark one line through that item and record 0 in column 14, quantity available. Menu items served as leftovers must also be listed. List the food items, portion size, meal pattern contribution, number of servings to offer, and date of original service in columns 7, 8, 9, 11, and 13. Include the leftover quantity available, amount of non-reimbursable servings, and the required information about leftovers in columns 14 through 16. Additions made prior to ordering food are treated the same as any other planned menu item as the manager is planning to order and serve. Additions made at the last minute on the day of service would be treated as a partial or full substitution. For example, the manager realizes that bananas need to be added because there is an abundance in stock, or peaches are insufficient to provide the amount needed, so an additional fruit is added to substitute for the shortage. Either way, the planning for the day will need to be adjusted to reflect the amounts to offer. However, if the manager knew in advance that bananas would be planned and served, the original planning would reflect this, so there would be no need to indicate that it was a substitution on the day of service. In Section 12, the purpose of the information in this column is to create an accurate food order and communicate to employees the expected amount of food to prepare and offer for service. Use purchase units as listed in the USDA Food Buying Guide and as indicated on your accurate standardized recipes for placing creditable food items into production. For example, each, pounds, number 10 cans, etc., as indicated in column 10. This Excel Food Production Record, or FPR, will transfer the purchase units as listed in column 10 automatically when correct information is entered into the FPR. This FPR spreadsheet also contains formulas that will make the calculations automatically for the planned quantity required to prepare the number of servings indicated in the total section of column 11. For example, it will take 3 number 10 cans of applesauce to serve 68 half-cup portions. This is calculated from the Food Buying Guide requiring 4.4 number 10 cans per 100 servings. So 4.4 number 10 cans multiplied by 68 portions divided by 100 portions equals 3 number 10 cans. Follow the quantities on the standardized quantity recipe, which should be based on minimum quantities from the Food Buying Guide, USDA food fact sheets, child nutrition labels, signed manufacturer's statements on company letterhead, or your own documented in-house yield data results. Refer to the Food Buying Guide page I-3 for more information about yield testing. In the sections on the right-hand side of the daily meal production record, this area is for today's production and service. Use Section 13 for special directions, comments, the original date of preparation for leftover menu items offered for today's service, or other information relative to the menu production for the day's menu, or for advanced preparation for another day. You may include such directions as type of pack, descriptive terms, brand names, code numbers of food, special garnishes, reminders to pull items from freezers to thaw for another day. If food items have been thrown out due to improper handling, note that information here. If leftovers are reserved, note the original date of production in this column 13. In section 14, enter total quantity of each meal component food item actually prepared for the entire day's meal service. Purchase units as listed in the USDA Food Buying Guide or production units indicated on accurate quantity recipes. For example, pounds, number 10 cans, each, etc., for newly prepared foods. Examples include: record the total quantity of canned fruits or vegetables as number 10 cans. Record the weight of cheese, frozen eggs, frozen fruits and vegetables in pounds or ounces. Record individual items such as whole fresh fruit, sausage patties, or rolls as each because they can be counted. Effective standardized quantity recipes should make use of these standard purchase units and provide accurate yield data for the number of portions expected. Use of accurate recipes for all menu items should be standard practice and provide clear guidance for all persons reviewing the production record and meal service data. There may be some instances where providing the number of portions in addition to the purchase unit could be helpful in determining sufficient portion sizes. For example, if number 10 cans of fruit are pre-portioned into individual cups, the employee should count the number of cups and record the number of portions in addition to the number of cans used. If a casserole item, such as baked egg and cheese quiche, is prepared, the employee should indicate in column 13 the number of pans prepared. One could then reference the recipe to easily determine the number of portions prepared for the day's meal service. Include foods left over from previous day's meal service, as well as additional food opened or prepared. If serving leftover products, indicate the number of portions or amount available for today's menu. Leftover foods may be recorded in number of servings, for example, 15 servings of quiche, 20 servings of applesauce, 2 sausage biscuits, since the purchase unit would be recorded on the production record for the original day of service. The state agency does not require calculating and recording the number of portions for every menu item in this column. Requiring this calculation would be at the discretion of the Child Nutrition Administrator. The production record is the official document to monitor, record, and substantiate the reimbursable meals claimed. The production record should be used as an internal control to monitor and confirm that adequate foods are prepared and served to substantiate the reimbursable claim. In Section 15, enter the number of portions served for any non-reimbursable item, including a la carte sales, adult-priced meals, eligible child nutrition adult meals, and catered meals, etc. This information is often available from a computer-generated report from point-of-sale information. In column 16, enter actual portions of each menu or food item left after all meals and non-reimbursable items have been served. You should always record all leftovers and temperatures of temperatures controlled for safety foods and amounts of all food, even if you are discarding the products. Remember that food temperatures of all TCS foods, including a la carte items, must be tracked through cooking or preparation, holding and leftover temperatures. If TPHC procedures are followed according to written procedures, the temperature of these foods do not have to be recorded on the production record at the end of service. Foods subject to TPHC must be discarded by the end of the time specified in the written TPHC procedure. You must indicate the date to use leftovers that remain at a safe temperature and high quality. Date marking of TCS foods that are prepared in the operation is required. While the Food Code allows food service operators to keep potentially hazardous foods for 7 days, Child Nutrition has established a higher standard. All leftover foods must be used within 72 hours from the date of production. Record the date up to 3 days from today's date. The food must also be labeled with the name of the item and clearly indicate date to use or discard date. Since leftovers can be used on any date during the 72-hour period, you may indicate the date planned to include the leftover in the menu, or you may record the date that is 3 days out and use it on any menu within the 72-hour period. Leftovers may not be frozen for use beyond 72 hours from the time of original preparation. And now let's review what you've learned.